fights with passion, and he inspires.
Are you ready for a war?
All right, welcome back to From 8 Arbitration, day one of Boston, and it was a hit, to say the least. I've got several guests in here with me. I've got Mr. Jamie Partridge. He's going to talk about some things. He approached me down on the floor and said that I had told people that they can get some shout-outs. I'm going to give him some time. Also got Mr. Charlie Miller. He's going to go in depth, at length, about what happened inside the convention hall today. It was very, very interesting. Had a vote, and I'm going to let him tell you about that. He's not going to tell you how to vote, but he's going to talk about that, how that went. First off, the CLC, we were at every mic about 45 minutes before this thing started, making sure that our position was going to be heard. Nobody else was at those mics. And so I see some people on, which is fine, talking about we did it. Let me tell you, before this thing started, I told y'all that the lines were fucking coming, and we were here. And everybody saw that, and they saw this filibuster go on where we had to wait for 2 hours to get recognized, and which is fine. I think that only emboldened our position. And when people saw that, continue to come up to us saying, hey, keep standing, we're with you. So I think it worked in our favor to do that, but I told y'all before this started we were coming. I told you I wasn't bullshitting about that. We're coming, and we were here. The attitude, the atmosphere on the floor was unlike anything I've seen before in any convention. It was kind of leaning towards hostile a little bit. I think that when our president came out to his song and only 10% of the people stood up and the rest kept to their seats, I thought that was telling. And I think that it kind of carried over into this vote, which was extremely vocal on the floor. And it was everything that we had said it would be. We weren't going to come down here in half step. I told you what was going to happen, and it happened. First off, Mr. Thomas Eckler and Mr. Cole Billups, thank y'all very much. I could not be doing this without y'all because I have no idea what I'm doing. And so Mr. Eckler has been up here with me for about the past hour trying to get this thing ready. So I cannot do this without him. And so thank you, sir, for doing that. I also said a while back, if you can remember, I said, don't ever underestimate the power of you, which is the city letter carrier. You're the most powerful thing we've got when I talk about making change. You're more powerful than management. You're more powerful than this union. And today, you showed that. You showed the president that he's not going to dictate how we do things. We are the controlling body, the city letter carrier. And today proved that point to everybody. The vote was 2,221 yeas, 1,596 nays, which in that setting was impressive. So don't ever underestimate the power of you. And I've said that in numerous episodes. Y'all hold all the power. You make change through your vote, through your voice, and you did that today. I'm going to have Mr. Jamie Partridge. He wanted to come on and talk a little bit. I'm going to let him say some things. Also, I'm going to give a shout out that somebody sent me. Also, starting tomorrow at 3 o'clock in room 507 at the Westin, if you want to come up and give your branch a shout out, come up and do it, however many that is. Room 507 in the Westin. Y'all can come up. That's where we're doing the podcast. Come up and give your branch a shout out, whatever you want to say. And you can do that. I had several people come up to me today saying that that's something that they wanted to do. And so have at it. Come up and do that. So, Mr. Partridge, are you ready, sir?
I am.
All right. So
ready.
Here's Jamie Partridge. He's going to talk to y'all a little bit. And then we're going to get to Charlie Miller, and he's going to tell y'all exactly what happened today. All right? Mr. Partridge?
All right. Well, thank you, Brother Walton. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to your tens of thousands of listeners. I'm a retired letter carrier, been a member of NALC for 40 years, been out, haven't delivered mail for 12 of those years, but I've kept in close contact, and actually about 12 years ago helped start a national organization called Communities and Postal Workers United, which was at that time responding to our previous Postmaster General, who was trying to close, and actually did close half the mail processing plants around 2012, 13, 14, and threatened to close half the post offices, most of them rural. And so we were organizing all the different crafts, all the postal workers, plus, the most vulnerable community groups like seniors and veterans and small business people and low and rural communities to resist these consolidations, reduction in service. They reduced the standards. When we used to be able to get first class mail in the same city, you put it in the mailbox one day and it arrived the next day in the same city. Well, that changed back 10 years ago. We're seeing the same thing happening today with the new Postmaster General, Louis DeJoy. And so our organization has ramped up our efforts, but we've also been able to help spawn a new organization, which is Rank and File Postal Organizers, which meets on a weekly basis by Zoom on Sunday evenings. And we got started primarily because of the epidemic, because there was, the Postal Service and our union were not in struggle to get safety, on the job during the pandemic. And so, we're both involved with struggling for better working conditions, but also the bigger picture, saving the Postal Service and saving service, basically, because what's happening with these consolidations, these cuts, these closures, the delay of mail is driving the Postal Service into the ground, and we're going to lose it if we don't, fight in a big and public way. And so one of the things that we've been doing at every convention for the last 10 years is having a rank and file exchange on the Tuesday evening of the convention. We're doing that again this year. We actually have a decent relationship with the national leadership, or at least we have up until this point. So they gave us a room. It's going to be tomorrow, Tuesday, from 5 to 6:30 in room 157B, and called Rank and File Exchange. We're talking about resolutions, talking about working conditions, in particular, what's happening in your city. Are you experiencing speed up, harassment, mandatory overtime? How are you dealing with heat and smoke? And, what kind of secrets are you coming up with to resist the management attacks that we're all experiencing? And I just wanted to shout out to my folks in Portland. We have a crew, a rank and file caucus in Portland that's, trying to engage in all these ways, both, on working conditions, but also the bigger picture. And we're just to say that we're real excited about the changes that are happening within our union. It's just amazing that the corruption, I have to say, at the top level has spawned not only this movement at the rank and file level, which is now calling itself building a fighting NALC, focused on open bargaining and also these consolidations, the sorting and delivery centers. But the concerned letter carriers grouping that's mostly made up of local officers, local presidents, came out of a president's conference, I guess it was last year. This is all really, really exciting to those of us who have been in this struggle for a while. And I wanted to just say to my folks in Portland that we got some great energy here at the national level that we're gonna hook up with any way we can. And I also wanted to mention one more final thing, which you brought up in one of your recent podcasts, Corey, which is that you wanted to collect the local memorandums of understanding from all these different branches. And, for decades, we've been in struggle with our national leadership to allow branches to share information with each other. At one point there was a national resolution that passed the convention that all the contact information for all the branches would be available to all the branches. And it's never been true. We don't know how to reach people except when we come in contact with them at convention, right? So there are some really creative LMOUs out there, and let me just mention Portland's local memorandum which has an after dark prohibition. I think we might be the only branch in the country. And it didn't just come out of nowhere. I mean, there was a struggle back in the 80s, early 80s, where we were basically refusing to deliver after dark. And management said, well, can't we figure something out? And so we now have language under safety and curtailment of the mail, which says that management will not schedule a letter carrier to deliver after dark. And of course, they violate it all the time. But what's ended up happening, they started, and the first time we took it up to whatever it was, pre-arb, we got $25 a violation, and now we're at $50 a violation. That's something we want to share with the rest of the country, but people don't know about it. And we'll send it to you.
Absolutely.
Send you our language. Yeah. So that's all I got, unless you want to ask me some questions.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because I've always said the gatekeeping between each region is ridiculous to me. I think that every region should. I remember one time when I was a formal Step A, and I contacted a region where they had an arbitration award. I read it. So I contact this region, and I'm like, hey, who put this case together? Is there any way you can send me this case file? And hell, if every business agent around didn't call, you don't ever contact another. Yeah, and I'm like, what are you? Hell, I thought we was in it for each other. But it's like we have 15 different unions in 15 different regions. And I've always said, y'all got to talk to each other, game plan. Mm-hmm. I think that's a huge failure on our national leadership, where they don't sit people down, just like this hour office time and all these things, and say, hey, how are we going to defeat this nationally? This is a national issue. How are we going to defeat this nationally? Rather than just 15 different regions doing it 15 different ways, good results, bad results, just like this LMOU.
Yeah.
Why has that not been done years ago? Yeah. There's some very interesting things in LMOUs that people may not have thought about. Why not share those things? This gatekeeping's got to stop with our union, where nobody wants to. Don't go to this region right here and ask them anything. Don't go to them. Right. I think that's ridiculous.
Well, and it applies. Basically, it's the same problem that we have with this fighting for open bargaining, which is, that the national doesn't want to share information about what they're, whatever kind of backroom deals they're trying to make with management. And, we've seen open bargaining on a national level with the auto workers and with the UPS Teamsters, and even with the Writers Guild. That's really impressive, because what it does is it really engages the members. People get involved with the union because they want to know what's happening, and they get this information like on a weekly basis. And this is what the union proposes, and this is what the counter proposal was, and they can figure out a way to message their representatives at the bargaining table. I mean, we have a mechanism. We have the NBAs. If we could know on a weekly basis what was happening at the bargaining table, and we could message our NBA with like, hold out, don't cave on this one, or we can let that one go. Whatever it is, you would just increase the level of union participation, and then of course the idea of a contract campaign alongside of it, because people get agitated when they see what management is, what they think of us, what they think we're worth, and they're ready. They're ready to get out on the street. And then the idea that we shouldn't be sharing this with the public. The public loves us. They want us to have good working conditions. They want us to have good wages. Yeah. They hate to see the turnover that's going on in our craft, and they'll come out for us too if they know what the Postal Service is doing to us, but they don't know.
Yeah, I think we've missed it on that when you talk about the public.
Yeah.
And people that listen to the podcast understand what I'm talking about. We have missed it as far as getting out there and making the public aware through HIP, through the our working conditions, heat, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And like I've always said, I want a president who fights. I win or lose, just fight, man. I get behind a fighter. If you're constantly refusing to fight, I have nothing for you. And I think that people showed that today in that convention. I think that people expressed their opinion on this president, because there was no applause when he came out. Very few people stood up. It was kind of embarrassing. But I think that people have had it with this regime that refuses to fight. I wish I had a nickel for every button you have on right now, because I would be able to retire.
Well, these are from all the conventions I've been to. But I wanted to say that I really appreciated when Eugene Gates was killed by the Postal Service in that heat, that you were just irate. You were just livid on the podcast about why isn't our national calling people into the streets?
Yeah.
And, I remember back in the day with Vince Sombrato, when we had these contract campaigns where we were not only in the streets, we were on the streets with all the crafts together. Right? But, we can, in our little town of Portland, we've been having our rallies against this, implementation of the consolidations in the SNDCs. And we even got the city council to pass a resolution to call on the Postal Service to hold a public meeting. Of course, the Postal Service refused.
Yeah.
But, the public loves us, and they come out for us if we let them know what's happening.
Yeah, I just felt like, and some people called me crazy, I felt like the Postal Service murdered that man. And that's how I feel.
They did.
I mean, and nobody will ever convince me otherwise. But your button you got on the front is open bargaining. That's one that's front and center. And so Tyler had a semi-victory with the open bargaining. Kind of the executive council kind of implemented, it seemed like, some watered down things. I hope he doesn't give up on that. I think that he can make some more traction with that. But it was interesting to see right before the convention kind of, the executive council throwing him a bone a little bit, maybe an olive branch.
And I think it's really important to realize, I've been around long enough to see where there are times when a bold resolution comes forward that the executive council doesn't really like, but they'll approve it to get people off. Away from the mic, and and they don't do anything about it after the convention, right? And so that's where the follow up is going to be needed.
That's right. I hope that he does not back down.
Well, he's already said. Tyler's already said he wants to form a national caucus after the convention. That expands and involves more branches.
I think he's going to be on later, maybe Wednesday or Thursday, to talk about it. But you got anything else for us?
Well, we'll get to hear him tomorrow, probably when he gets to the mic.
Yeah.
Whenever the resolutions come up, he'll talk about. We appreciate the executive council approving the resolutions, and
Well, I hope everybody has his back. I know that they've been still at work today, handing out flyers and stuff, and so they've been on top of it. Right there it is. But I appreciate you, my brother. Anytime you want to come on, man, you just let me know, and you can come on.
I encourage anybody who's at the convention to come to our rank and file exchange tomorrow evening, Tuesday, 5 to 6:30 at room 157B.
All right.
All right.
I got you, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to get to Charlie Miller. He's going to break down exactly what happened today. It was very tumultuous at some points. I thought that you handled it perfectly.
Thank you.
You handled it perfectly. We were there probably about 45 minutes. I got scolded kind of like my mother used to do me when I was little by your wife, who jumped all over me when I took one step away from that microphone. She ran down there. She was all the way across now this is a huge convention center, and it was probably a quarter of a mile. She ran to me, and I looked at JB and I was like, is she coming at us? And about 20 steps away, I was like, oh shit, she's coming to us. And she came up to me, she said, you stand right there in front of that, don't you move. I said, yes, ma'am. So we stood there for 3 hours. I stood in front of that microphone. We had the ultimate filibuster put on us, where Brian, first off, they have, everything that goes on, the national anthem, the prayer, the Pledge of Allegiance, had some local people talk. We're there with our finger on the mic this entire time. Had some videos going, some other people talking. We still have our finger on this button to speak. And to me, it was impressive because I look around and every member of the CLC, 2, 3, 4 deep at each microphone, because what we were going to say is, however the body votes, however y'all going to vote, that's your right. Vote how you want to vote. But the body needs to determine if we hear the appeal or not. It's not going to be the president who sends out a letter saying, hey, I have decided that I'm not going to let y'all vote against me. And so when that happened, I know that you're upset. A lot of people were upset. A lot of the members are upset. I read it on an episode and got a lot of comments about that. And to me, I agree with them and I agree with you that the body should always be the ones who vote and decide exactly what's going to happen. That's what this convention is for. And so I wanted to give a shout out real quick, and then I'm going to get to Charlie. First off, the meet and greet last night, everybody was absolutely amazing. I mean, it was all night long, people coming up. It was fantastic. Even today, the same thing. Everybody coming up. It was absolutely fantastic. I love seeing everyone. I'll be here all week. Hopefully I don't get kicked out. I made it all day today, which is a good thing. And so, but hey, I love seeing everybody. It has been a blessing just to hear your stories of how the podcast has helped. I know JB feels the same way. He was beside me at the mic, so we both were there, and he didn't get his ass chewed out like I did. I don't know why I was singled out like that. If I was to file a grievance, I would win that about disparate treatment. That he didn't get chewed out at all, Charlie. I took exception to that a little bit, but anyway, she's sitting right here looking at me. That's why I'm saying all this. But no, I love everybody, man. Thank y'all so much for the hospitality. Everybody coming up to me, showing me the love. I really, really appreciate that. But Charlie, I'm gonna let you close this thing out. Again, remember room 507. If y'all want to come give a shout out, let me give the shout out real quick. I'm not gonna come back on after Charlie. I'll just end it. But I got one that somebody sent me from West Coast, a very militant little group out there in California. Rick Rock wants to give a shout out to the Mailman Chronicle family who's running deep at the convention. Trevor, Rachel, Reed, Wayne, Gail, Roma, and Raina. And he says, Dustin Schidler, where you at, brother? But Region fucking 1, you animals. Corey Walton for sounding the alarm 2 years ago when I found the pod. Thank you. And Salted Peanuts made seasoned carriers. And Rick Rock, I love that guy. And so if y'all know him, he is quite the character with the videos that he makes and puts up on Facebook. But very militant group out there, man. But they love the City Letter Carrier. Very passionate about the City Letter Carrier. And, obviously they listen to the podcast and they love all the cursing. So to that group, man, I love each and every one of y'all. But Rick Rock, there's your shout out, baby. So, but anybody else, room 507, 3 o'clock every day. Room 507 at the Westin. If y'all want to give your shout outs. But every day at 3 o'clock, I'll be doing the podcast. All right. So, Mr. Miller, I want you to break it down exactly what happened today. A very interesting day. The work's not done yet, but like you were saying earlier, hey, however the members vote, that's their vote. That's all we wanted. Win or lose, yay or nay, whatever. Doesn't matter. We wanted the members to be able to tell their story. Hey, this is how we feel. This is how we vote. And that was a big win for the City Letter Carrier craft. And I couldn't have been prouder of the CLC for, like I said, for standing up there some 2.5, 3 hours at those mics with those fingers, because you got to hold the button down the entire time. You can't walk away. You can't just, it's not something you push. And then you got to hold the button down the entire time. So all my fingers were asleep and I was taking off my shoes to put my toes up there. But then he finally called on mic 1. I was at mic 8. Unfortunately, I didn't get called, but you were there. You were heavily involved. Matter of fact, you got to get up on the stage. But I'm going to let you tell what happened. All right, my brother.
All right. Well, let me explain why. Most of you are aware that President Renfroe rendered a decision on July 29, 2004, which essentially said that he's making the call about whether or not the appeals were to be heard. And he was interpreting the national constitution actually to his benefit. Now, this presidential ruling is unprecedented because it involved him directly. And it benefited him directly. In every case in our history as a union where somebody has a direct interest, where the president has a direct interest, he recused them or they recused themselves from making the decision, and they either went to the executive vice president, and which occurred earlier in these events, where Paul Bonner designated the investigator, and he designated the committee that took in the evidence. In 1993, when charges were brought against President Sombrado and the entire executive board, they all recused themselves from making a decision on the matter because it looked like they were serving their own interest if they did. So they called a special convention, called people in from all over the country that we attended a convention and we heard the charges. Well, President Renfroe made his decision 1 week before the convention. There was no reason at all not to wait and have the deliberative body of the NALC. Article 1, Section 4 of our Constitution says the membership is supreme. They make all decisions governing the body. So when President Renfroe took it upon himself to make a self-serving decision, it was up to somebody had to step up. And the concerned letter carriers is a group that is wanting to restore the NALC to where we were a while back ago. As I said in the past, this opening bargaining issue is not a new issue. We had opening bargaining back in 1980 and 1990s. I mean, we had the buttons that said higher work, harder pay. That was our bargaining position. That was out for everybody to know. Vince Sombrado would lead informational pickets. He'd lead rank and file carriers out on the picket lines all over the country on informational pickets. It wasn't a secret where we were coming from. We, in the 1980s and the 1990s, we moved forward rapidly. When I started out as a letter carrier, it only took me 8 years to reach top salary. There was only $3,000 difference between top salary and bottom salary. Today it's 30. And we have 2 tiers. And it takes a letter carrier almost 6 years to earn a living wage. An NALC member today is making the same wage as a fast food worker. That's not saying a fast food worker is bad or that they don't deserve to make an adequate living. We're just saying that we're a union and we ought to be representing our people better. We should be making a better wage than a fast food worker. Again, we're not knocking the fast food workers. We're just saying we should be doing better because we have representation. Our goal is to be a rank and file movement. And you cannot be a rank and file movement unless you're working in the rank and file's interests. And in this case here, it was in the interest of the membership to be able to make the decision whether or not that they wanted to hear the appeals. It's in the interest of the membership to make a determination of how they interpret our Constitution, what they interpret that to mean. Now, we're going to have a vote because of the actions of the CLC. I mean, give credit where credit was due. We were there early. We manned every mic. We stood through the entire filibuster, all 2.5 hours of it. Ed Fletcher did an excellent job in bringing forth a resolution on behalf of the membership. And what the motion was I make a motion that the delegates of the National Convention reject President Renfroe's ruling of July 29, 2004, and allow the membership to hear the appeals of the Director of City Delivery, Chris Jackson, Branch 70 President Ricardo Guzman, and retired member Charles Miller, no later than Wednesday, August 7th, 2024. What we're asking is to put the decision-making power of this union back in with the membership. Let the membership have its call. Now, we went through a bit of parliamentary maneuvering. The motion was intentionally mischaracterized. We had to go through a couple of different sets of votes. Generally, when you have a vote at a convention, it's done by a voice vote, and a determination is made on the yeas and nays by voice. If there is a disagreement, and in this case there was, we have what's known as a division. That means everybody has to stand up, and you take a survey of who's standing and who's sitting, whether or not the vote counts. And if we go beyond that, it's called a teller vote, where you actually have to stand and be counted. And that's where it came down to, was a teller vote. And Fortunately, there was a good byproduct about it because the membership got an idea of who on the executive board supported them and who wanted to take the vote away from them. So that more to come on that. But the vote was overwhelming. We won by over a 600 vote margin, and now the membership gets to decide. And that's the way it should be with almost everything that goes on in our union. If this is going to be a rank and file organization, well, by God, let the rank and file make the call. And there's ways of doing things. You don't have to get upset, and you don't have to shout out or anything. There are parliamentary procedures that you have to educate yourself on. We called points of order several times. It's probably something that nobody's aware of, but if you don't do something right, you can call a point of order on the chair. And we had to do that and get our motion correctly stated a couple of times. But all in all, the membership has, you guys know what it is that's between what's right and wrong, and how do you want your Constitution to be interpreted. A critical area on the interpretation is going to come up. And there was an unfortunate remark made today about the membership of the NALC. One of the people who spoke in opposition to us, a retired business agent, referred to us as shithouse of lawyers. That was, to me, that was truly unfortunate, and I think it turned a lot of people off. Because this is our Constitution, and we have a right to interpret what it means. Our Constitution isn't, reserved just for the all-wise national officers. It's reserved for the rank and file. Shithouse attorneys or not, we're going to make a decision come Wednesday. So, a couple of things about the decision come Wednesday. Right, wrong, indifferent. However the membership votes, I am good with it. The membership wants to come out with a different verdict. We should be entitled to do that. This is not a court of law. This is a process in the national Constitution. It says that the committee makes a decision, guilty or innocent, and recommends a penalty, and the executive council votes on it. What's important here, and I've said this before, the executive council took 4 votes. Although the committee recommended 2 guilty charges, they voted to affirm the not guilty charge. So what that tells you, if they voted to affirm it, then they could have also turned around and said, no, the person is guilty, despite what the committee said. It's also true for the membership. If the executive council has that authority to overturn the committee, then the membership has the authority to overturn the executive council. Article 1, Section 4 of our Constitution says the membership is the supreme body. How can you be supreme if you don't have the authority to overturn an executive council's decision? Isn't that kind of a common sense approach to this? I mean, you could come up with some convoluted legal theory that says it's not practical or possible, but I have an attorney who can come up with this convoluted a legal theory that says it is. So it's not a contest of legal theories. It's a contest of what the membership believes their Constitution means. We're going to be dealing with what is an aggrieved member. This is going to set precedents, because if it ever happens in the future, they'll be going back to the decisions that you make on Wednesday. What is an aggrieved member? Is an aggrieved member just the person who's charged? Or is it any member who disagrees with the executive council? While you have one group of people that wants to narrow the rights of the membership, you have another group of people that thinks that the membership's rights should be more broad-based. That any member who feels aggrieved. Aggrieved is a very basic concept. Anybody who disagrees or feels like they weren't served well, you're an aggrieved member, and you have a right to appeal whatever the decision the council makes. Don't let them narrow your rights. Stand up for yourself. An aggrieved member is anybody in this union who disagrees with the decision of the executive council. You have a right to file an appeal. And the minute that you give up that right and let them narrow it down, it will go that way forever, unless you pass a constitutional amendment changing it. If an aggrieved member was so narrow, then the Constitution would have said that specifically, that only the person who was charged can file an appeal. It doesn't say that. It says any aggrieved member. Define what your Constitution means. That's what you will be doing on Wednesday.
All right. Well, I appreciate you could have done it much better than me, and you did. And so that's the reason I wanted you to talk about it. I thought it was extremely impressive how the members handled themselves during this entire thing. They got very boisterous when initially when he was kind of dismissive of it. We'll just do it later. And the members were not happy. And you could tell that across the entire convention. They were not ready to fight, but they were not happy with, you could tell that they were not happy with how things were going in this union. And you could almost feel that inside that convention when right off the jump, from when he came out to that Creedence Clearwater Revival song, you know, talking about born with a silver spoon in your mouth, and he's not the one. And so he is the one that was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, you know. And I thought that the members, when, like I said, about 10% stood up, the rest sat down, no applause. He went around the whole stage talking to everybody and then came up in front of the members. And then when this vote came up, you know, just how he talks is the same thing that he gives in every rap session. And eventually getting to us after about 2 hours of talking, getting to the first mic. That gentleman did a fantastic job for the CLC presenting his case. The members, when Renfroe was trying to kick that down the road a little bit, were not pleased. And you could tell it. And it was extremely loud, kind of how they were with that. And so I thought it was very impressive how the CLC handled their business. They remained professional. You know, nobody acted a fool. He called on mic 1, then mic 2. I know that you got involved. You went up on the stage eventually. And when they had the stand-up vote.
I was invited up.
Yeah, for the stand-up vote. And you handled that professionally. Then when it came time for the other thing, you handled that professionally. And then they had the vote. And so it is what it is. And like you said, whatever the vote is whatever the vote is. You know, we're not saying yay or nay, guilty, not guilty. Now, people know how I feel about it. I think that he should be removed. Matter of fact, I was on that Valley Labor Report podcast Saturday, and they said, what are you looking from it? I said, I want him going back to deliver the mail. I want him to get some more experience on the floor.
Honorable profession.
And that's, I think it is. I've been doing it for 32 years. And that's what I want. I want him to go back to delivering mail so that he can understand us a little bit better about the things that we're going through. I think that he would change his mind on some of the issues that we have right now with these memos. I think he'd be pissed at himself about the memos if he was on the floor seeing how we're being bullied right now because of the things he put on there. I think that he would be mad at himself if he could see how those memos are being used against us. I think that he'd be pissed if he was put under the spotlight of those scanners being watching us with stationary events. I think that he'd be pissed as far as the hip training, who he found out his was falsified when they hadn't done it. I think that would change his mind. But that goes with being, you know, spending time on this floor. I think that him being removed from his position and being able, the opportunity to go back and deliver the mail would be beneficial to him. And I think that deep down he probably feels the same way, that he doesn't need to be in that position. He probably needs to go back to delivering mail. And that would probably make him, you know, a better steward, if that's what he wanted to do, a better formal aide down the line. And eventually maybe get into a position of an RAA and see things through that. And, you know, he's still a young man and work his way back up. If that's what he wants to do is be president, maybe it's not. But it's just not for him right now, and that's how I feel. Now, the vote's going to be the vote. However people are going to vote, that's their business. But
I'd like to comment on one last item. And it may be kind of nitpicky on my part or whatever, but this is my 20th convention. And I've never had to go through a metal detector to get into a convention before.
or dogs.
I have never seen so much security, private security. We have never had a code of conduct read to us before a national convention. The code of conduct should be voted on by the membership, whether or not they want to accept it. If we're going to have a code of conduct, it should be understood that the code of conduct applies to everybody, including national officers. It should not exclude anybody. That should be something that the rank and file makes a determination on, not just push down our throat when it's convenient or somebody's afraid of what the rank and file movement's all about. You don't have to fear your membership. We're all letter carriers. We're all out for the same goal, aren't we? Unless you're just an empire builder.
I've never had dogs come up and sniff me before.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, that's some high level security. I think it's because of you.
Of me?
I think they knew.
I'm an old man.
You're going to be here. You got your SMC hat on, so maybe that's. but anyway, I'm going to say this. Did any one of y'all have anything y'all want to say? Miss Anita, you want to say anything over there?
You exaggerated. I wasn't running. I was walking fast.
It looked like he was running at me. It was a quick step, but it got me because I was like, why is she running at me? All right. I'm going to say this is about the CLC, about our meeting tomorrow. CLC James D. Henry would like to extend a warm welcome to those attending the NALC 73rd Biennial Convention. We look forward to seeing everyone on Tuesday at the meet and greet in room 107. I had a lot of people come up to me this morning about that. It's 107 at the Convention Center from 7 to 9 a.m. with a panel discussion to follow after the convention session featuring CLC 2026 candidates and board members covering topics such as rank and file's role in shaping the future of the NALC, ending fast food wages for letter carriers, building a fighting union, and restoring solidarity. The round table in the PM will be 3 to 5. Is that right?
Yeah.
All right. Then I'm going to have to change my podcast time because I'm going to be on that round table unless I just got kicked off of it.
You're going to put in some double time tomorrow.
All right. So I'm going to charge the CLC double time. And so the round table will be 3 to 5 tomorrow. I guess that's in room 107 again.
Yes.
Still in room 107. I'll be doing the podcast at 5 after 5. So in this room, 507 at the Westin. So if y'all want to give shout outs tomorrow, you're going to have to be here at 5. And so if y'all plan on eating dinner tomorrow, it's going to be a little late. So anyway, those are the arrangements for tomorrow for the CLC. Thank you, Mr. Partridge, for coming on. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you, Charlie Miller. As always, you did a great job. Thank you, sir, Mr. Eckler, for doing what you did.
Appreciate my guy Don over here for
Don over here,
helping pull
cheesing.
me into things.
Yeah, he's over here having a good time. I see Discord is alive and well. You sent
Going
some
crazy today. Yeah, I put out a teaser already.
Yeah. So y'all get on Reddit and Discord. They've had a good day today, a very fun day today, talking about everything that's going on. And from 8arbitration.com, remember to get on there and get all the stuff that you need. You got all the shirts and everything. All that's going to MDA. And I appreciate everybody that bought the shirts for the convention. Had a great number. That'll be Wednesday. Will be shirt day. And I think there will be some surprises as far as Thursday for the, I heard, for the, what is that Thursday? That's the Political Action Fund, right? Those presentations. So you want to wear those shirts? May be fun. We'll see. But I'll talk to y'all tomorrow for the second day of the convention. We'll see if we can make it as eventful as today, all right? I love each and every one of you, and y'all know that. And the members, y'all are something else, man. Today is what it's all about, seeing the members stand up and say, hey, this is our union. Y'all work for us. We don't work for you. Today was the perfect example of that. You know, I talk about the Lions were coming, the CLC and all this stuff. At the end of the day, it's about the members. And y'all kicked the shit out of it today. Y'all really did. Y'all stood up and showed out today in that convention center, and I couldn't be more proud. And so I'll talk to y'all tomorrow on day 2 of Boston. All right? See ya.